This hour is brought to you by Sweetland Waste and Removal Service, a homegrown company serving Southern Indiana since 1995.
Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Well, come on along and welcome aboard the Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. I'm Jim Coyle, of course, and also joining me today, as always, will be from now on, Todd Leary. Todd, how are you, sir?
I'm great. How are you, brother?
I cannot complain. Another weekend of great sports action. You had a lot going on. We're going to have a lot to talk about today. Unfortunately, the football team does not get that win at Penn State, but wow, what a game. We got plenty to talk about there. Men's basketball, another big win. Women's basketball, men's soccer, another Big Ten title. All kinds of stuff going on, man.
Yep, it was a overall pretty good Hoosier weekend. Even though, as you mentioned, the football team not winning, it's still I think they came out of it with a lot of positives, and I think they feel like they could play with anybody right now. So that's what you want when you can't win a game like that, or you don't win it. At least coming out of it with I think some confidence is about as much as you can ask for, and I think they did for sure.
Well, I don't want to bury the lead here, of course. If you listened closely on the opening of the show, you heard with Coyle and Leary as Todd's going to be with us each and every day now, joining the show permanent full time. How's it feel, brother?
Nobody's more excited than me. I promise you that. I've wanted to do it for a long time, and I super appreciate the opportunity to do it with you, and looking forward to it.
No one's more excited than I am in that regard, man. It's looking forward. It's going to be a lot of fun. Todd's going to be an equal part of the show from here out, man. I'm so excited about that. Lots to get to, and we might as well get at it right now. We just talked, skipped on a little bit of it. Indiana
this means I get to interrupt you all the time, and it's just going to be awesome for me. I love it.
It's just like normal.
Yep. Those people just don't know that. They're going to find out.
And I can't skip the biggest thing that we saw this weekend was the event that took place at the Bluebird with the Hoosier Hysterics, that kind of reunion sort of a thing, an appearance by Bob Knight, several former players, Sage Steele. It was Jessica Dombey. They had everybody.
Yeah, I like how you just kind of throw Sage Steele in there at the end of that. She was the highliner, if you're asking most of us. I think all the players were more excited to go talk to her than she was to talk to us. But man, it was a cool event, and it was kind of neat that those guys were able to organize something that ended up being so successful from California. I mean, two guys from California that haven't been here. They didn't get here till Thursday, and somehow they organized that great event. And yeah, we'll talk more about it. Everybody in Hoosier Nation pretty much knows about it, but the event was great in itself and would have been terrific and a huge success. And then it just totally went to a whole nother level when Coach Knight showed up. And I know the fans that were there, that is an IU event that they will never forget. And you can ask people today, where were you in the 87 championship? And I can tell you where I was. And, it's fun to talk to Indiana fans because it's huge life events for them when Indiana does something special like that. And I honestly believe, based on the fans that I talked to that were there, that will be something they remember for a long, long time.
Absolutely. I mean, for so many different reasons, of course, none bigger than Bob Knight appearing there. But have you even been to an event within, the last 20 years, 30 years that had that many former IU players together from that far different in generations in one spot?
From the different generations, no. I mean, we had our Final Four reunion team back, so a lot of those guys were there. So, I mean, there was 10 or 12 of us there from around that time. And so there's been different events. I mean, there's golf events. Coach Knight used to have a golf event that I swear you did everything you could possibly do to get out of going to this thing. It was one of the most painful events in the world. And you would think, guys would want to come back to it and it's a good chance to see each other or whatever. And it wasn't. It was a miserable time. And thank goodness those are over. It's just hard to get those older generation guys, and I hate to say it that way because now I'm up there with them, but Ted Kitchell and Whitman and those guys, I mean, I grew up loving watching them play. I mean, they were my heroes. I wore number 30 because of Ted Kitchell. Like I loved Indiana basketball at that point. And, you know, when we have those events and, you know, your first couple years out of playing, you know, you're excited to go to the basketball golf outing, I think it was what it's called, or something along those lines, but pretty simple like that. And, you know, you go to it and there's hardly any former players there. And the ones that are there, you know, they're not super excited to be there. And it was a tough event. So really long-winded answer to what you're asking with that is no, there's not been, you know, that many guys there. And you know, I wish there had been a lot more. If they would have known Coach was going to be there, I can assure you a lot more of the older guys would have been there. I know Oliphant and you know, Sloan and a lot of those guys. I know they would have been there had they had the opportunity, knowing that he was going to come.
Absolutely, and it turned out to be a spectacular event for those fans and attendance, especially to get to wrap that up. But I mean, you had Steve Green there. That was the first recruit for Bob Knight ever at IU from Silver Creek High School down in Southern Indiana in Sellersburg. He was there. You had John Laskowski, who was there from the 75 team, and then he goes up all the way through people like Sharon Wilkerson, yourself, Matt Nover, Brian Evans. I'm trying to think of so many different ones that were there. A fun
Lance
day.
Stimler was there.
Lance
AJ
Stimler was
Moye. I mean, heck, I can't even remember all of them. There were obviously George Newton and George Leach, Jeff Newton. Those guys were there.
Their barbecue was spectacular, by the way. I got
legit.
to taste that.
I know
it
why,
was
I know
straight
why
up
they've been
good.
successful. That stuff was good.
Oh my gosh, that's the line. The line blew me up. The line was like it was at least 2 blocks long. It was almost that long to get into the place to begin with. When you open up the door, then the people started going for food. Oh my goodness, that line it didn't back down for like 2 hours. There was a line for like 2 hours to get through.
Barbecue Sunday thing that they had that looked like it was supposed to be an ice cream sundae, but had barbecue and coleslaw and all kinds of stuff mixed together. That thing was legit.
It was crazy, but what a fun time. Ran into quite a few fans of the show as well. That was a highlight of the day for me. I mean, getting to read people that follow us here on the program. We're so happy for you. I ran into Todd Patton on Sunday. Yogi's out there doing some, you know, of course it's a work day. Sunday's even a work day, unfortunately for us. So out there, but ran into him and his family. He was back in town and he stopped me and said hi, and I'm very appreciative. Dwayne Blackford from down in the Evansville area. Several people had stopped us. I'm trying to think of them all. The young lady,
Jennifer Lamb.
Jennifer Lamb. She was great out there. And so many. Yeah. It was just fun running into these people for us. And I'm grateful that they follow the show. It's a fun time, man.
No doubt. Yeah, that's. You know, you and I have been talking about this for a while, but we haven't really told a whole lot of people about me joining the show full time, really till now. But we've kind of known about it. But just the excitement of talking to, if I was second guessing my decision this weekend, helped that out a bunch, because just so many different people that were at that event talking about listening to us on the show and all of that, just made me feel really good about the decision I made, and you know, we'll just keep on growing it from here, brother.
I can't wait, man. We got a lot more coming up, a lot more Todd Leary now, especially. Jake says no.
You are going to OT before long. You will over Todd in a short period of time. Trust me. Happens to everybody.
OT, I like that, man. I like that. OT over Todd. Say that again, Jake. Oh, okay.
Got it.
Yeah, I don't have the clock's not correctly in my face there, so I can't keep up with things. But big performance by the basketball team this weekend. We'll get into that in the next segment. We'll talk about it a little bit. But we talked about that in the post-game show at Yogi's after the game with Todd Leary. As a matter of fact, don't forget, we're back there Wednesday night. Is Indiana, their next game is against Princeton. So we'll be back at Yogi's again. I think I've been at Yogi's more than I've been at home here of lately.
Yeah, that's. I think that's called a problem.
Well, that's a good problem to have.
It's not a bad one. It doesn't hurt.
Was in there watching some football yesterday, as a matter of fact. Crazy, man. NFL is crazy too. How about this fight last week? We haven't had a chance to talk about that. Have you ever seen anything as crazy as that?
We did talk about it. Remember, we disagree. We disagree on who we think started that whole fight.
Oh, that's right. We talked about it on Friday. It's not about who started it, who finished it.
But we didn't know. We didn't know the suspensions at that point. We didn't know who was going to get what. And boy, you called that. You said Myles Garrett wouldn't play the remainder of the season. I wasn't quite sure it would be that stiff of a penalty, but yeah, you were right about that one. And I just didn't hear very many people talk. I heard that Rudolph was going to get a fine, and to me, I think they're missing the boat there with that one, because he instigated the whole. If you want my opinion, he instigated the whole thing. It doesn't go near that far if he doesn't try ripping Myles Garrett's helmet off, and for him to not get that stiff of a penalty, to me, I thought was a mistake.
Yeah, well, that's where we disagree.
I know. You're allowed to be wrong every once in a while.
I hear you. Well, I've had Jake around to tell me that for long enough. Now it's good to have somebody different telling me that.
Yeah, well, I'll let you know every time, because if it's different than what I have to say, you're wrong.
That's right. Well, that's going to affect their season somewhat, maybe. But it's as a professional athlete, no matter who's starting or whatever, there's a line you can't cross, and he crossed that. And I think the rest of the league.
One of the things that I have been amazed at and truly, truly enjoyed to watch, this is amazing for me to say, because in college I could not stand him, but Baker Mayfield. If Johnny Manziel could have grown up in the short period of time like Baker Mayfield has, I think he would still be playing in the NFL and have an unbelievable career. I think Baker Mayfield has his interviews, and you can tell I feel like I can tell he's pretty genuine in those interviews, and the things that he says are something, a 10 to 12 year veteran would be saying. In those, he's learned a lot of football lessons. He's learned a lot of business lessons, and he's learned a lot of just how to handle situations and how to do things. And I truly believe he's not up there just saying what everybody wants to hear. He's always been known for kind of stirring the pot a little bit and being the instigator. But have you heard his interviews? Have you heard him talk?
Oh, of course, absolutely.
Oh his post-game interviews, and the one that Aaron Andrews did before the game. How can you not want to? I couldn't root for the Cleveland Browns, mostly because Pat Graham loves them. But I just have no reason to root for the Cleveland Browns whatsoever. And now I root for them every week simply because of Baker Mayfield. And, because of Jessica, I'm a Georgia football fan, so I surely don't root for Oklahoma. I have no reason to root for him, but the guy has a terrific attitude, and he has gained. I root for them every week from the sole purpose of Baker Mayfield, and I just hope that's why I led into that based on what you said about Myles Garrett. That's going to hurt the team, because that's really what Baker Mayfield's whole response was we've got to start making good decisions that help this team in the long run, and that's one that's going to hurt this team, and man, you got to love a teammate who's thinking long term like that, and every decision that takes place, can affect the win or loss, which can affect the playoffs, which can affect your ability to have a chance to win a Super Bowl. And I have jumped on the Baker Mayfield bandwagon. I can assure you that.
Man, we got a lot more to talk about. Todd Leary's on the show permanently as from here forth. He's with us right now, and we got a lot more to talk about when we come back, some of which is the big question. Tim texts into the show. Does Bob Knight make it to Assembly Hall this year? That's a great question. It's on everybody's mind. We've got that. We've got men's basketball, women's basketball, soccer, all kinds of stuff to talk about. But we're back with more Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is A.J. Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
This is former IU basketball player Derek Elson. Follow the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Coyle and Leary here on this Monday. Thanks a lot for joining us on the program. Mike Schumann will be with us later on. We'll talk with Mike from the Daily Hoosier. A big weekend, of course. The biggest thing that happened in Bloomington was the reunion get-together at the Bluebird. Man, what fun that was. I got to be honest with you. The funnest thing for me was just talking to Sage Steele. She was incredible, down to earth, as nice and as genuine as anybody you're ever going to meet.
Yeah, that was my favorite part, too. And that includes Bob Knight showing up. Kind of. But, no, you're right. I mean, spending so much time with her, and I knew I got to meet her several years ago when she came back for something in Assembly Hall. And, she sat down and talked to me at that point for like 10 minutes and explained to me what a huge Indiana basketball fan was. And she was remembering things that I didn't even remember until she brought him up. And so she solidified the fact she was a huge Indiana basketball fan. And you know, she's my age. So then she grew up with that same era of loving, you know, the Kitchells and Whitmans of the world and that group, and obviously Steve Alford and all of them. And then, you know, she was at IU during the time when I was there. So we shared a lot of same stories about stuff that went on and all that. And then, man, she just could not have been more gracious with her time, not just to us, and not just to players. Like, the girl is as genuine a human being as you can get, because she stood for every picture, signed every autograph, and was insanely happy to do it and be there. And what a lot of people didn't know is she was at the hospital with her daughter the night before that. She had just gotten sick. I think she had the flu really, really bad, needed some fluids. And so she had been with the hospital with her all night long, got on a plane and landed there, and got there just before she showed up at the Bluebird. And, you know, you'd have never known it. I don't think very many people there knew it at all, because she sure performed like a rock star out there, and just one of the nicest people you could ever come across.
And we'll have her on the show sometime soon. Looking forward to that. But she told one of the great stories, and it'll be even better when she tells it. But her father played football at Army when Bob Knight was the basketball coach there. And she relayed the story that when she was in school at IU in undergrad, one day she was either leaving Assembly Hall or something, or just in there walking for whatever, and she sees the coaches leaving, and she says, well, here's my chance to go up and ask him if he remembers my dad. And so she kindly walks up politely and said, Coach Knight, could I ask you a question? And he said, sure. And he put his arm around her. They keep walking, and she asked him if he remembered her dad, who played at Army. He goes, what's his name? She said, George Steele. And he goes, you mean George Steele? And he starts quoting off his height, weight, his hometown statistics. She goes, the best football player Army's ever had, that George Steele? And she said she was just blown away. And you can imagine being a little girl and having a figure like Bob Knight talking about your dad in such a positive way. What an impact that has to make on somebody.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, a lot of the lure and a lot of the history of Indiana. You know, that's why I think a lot of fans, and especially players, hope so bad that he comes back, and would have come back 10 years ago, or would have come back for the 76 reunion or things like that, because he's responsible for an enormous amount of the situations of what you're talking about right now. And Sage Steele, I think, probably always would have been a fan, but had that situation not gone as well as it did. And Coach Knight's a genius. I mean, he's a smart human being, and he loves history. He's read more books and quoted more history stuff to me than I ever learned in class. And so, you know, he's very intellectually knowledgeable about history and about a lot of that stuff. And it doesn't surprise me in the slightest, her telling me something about him knowing her dad's stats and everything about him. He used to do that with players that he had that to this day we've never heard of, other than him quoting them, of players he coached at Army. And the guy's just a genius with that. But that was part of the incredible thing of Indiana basketball, was Coach Knight brought more than, you know, just the best X's and O's coach ever to be around the game. You know, he brought that to that charisma and that unbelievable, you know, just ability to bring people in and make them love a program like the Sage Steele. And you know, she'll never forget that. And she'll tell that story 1,000 times. If she told one negative story, that's what everybody would remember. And that's kind of the unfortunate part of it, but it's just kind of society and the way that it is. But yeah, her telling that story. I mean, we were all in the car together when we were driving. You were in here and we all heard that. And I mean, I had chills when she's telling it. Like, that's a cool ass story to be able to tell. And, you know, she's got a lot of NBA people she meets all the time and does stories with and about. And I can assure you that's still up there on the top of her list.
And it's funny, she talked about how, you know, even though she's a big-time ESPN sports anchor and this and that, how everything is still surreal for her, which cracks me up, because as she's saying that, I'm sitting next to Sage Steele in a car driving somewhere thinking the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Me too.
And I'm like, I've been, I became a TV sports anchor when I left college and left IU. I worked for TV stations here. Been fortunate to interview people of all walks of the sports world, hang out with people like Todd Leary, whatnot. But this stuff never becomes nothing less than surreal to me. It always will. I mean, the fact I'm sitting in a car next to Sage Steele driving down a street in Bloomington talking about that stuff, I'm like, this is not really happening. And it does. It is. It's just, it will always amaze me. And I'm grateful for all those opportunities. But it cracks me up. But to hear her say it, it cracks me up. So I'm going to sit there laughing going, yeah, right. And I'm sitting next to you.
Right. I know. I was the same way. I tell you, Jessica and I were talking about it on the way home of, Jessica is not from Indiana, and she didn't even know who Bob Knight was when I met her 10 years ago. And so obviously I've told her how great I was, and I can embellish all the stats I want because she has no idea. But she knows who Sage Steele is, and she's watched enough TV with me to know who Sage Steele is. And you talk about developing a girl crush in about 15 seconds. You couldn't get those two apart all weekend long. It was pretty cool. For the way she took, you were there when we first got there. I mean, you saw our introduction to Sage and everything when we got there. And she put Jessica by her side, and the two of them were attached at the hip through the whole weekend. So, Sage is not just a great media personality and great for the university to say she's out there. She's just a good human. She's just a good person all around.
Absolutely. Jake said I should let you know that your games are on YouTube. You can watch them anytime you like.
Oh, well, don't tell her that. She thinks I average 30.
Did somebody tell us that was your jersey number, not
she
your
told her,
points
no,
per game?
Yeah, when I say number 30, they think that's what I averaged in points. She hadn't figured it out yet.
Well, that's a smart move, man. At least your number wasn't 0.
Yeah, I know it. Trust me. It should have been.
Hey,
I wanted number 3, but Jay Edwards had just left. I was number 30 in high school, and I loved Ted Kitchell. That's why I picked number 30 then. But I really wanted to change my number to number 3, just because I wanted a single-digit number. It was kind of a cool thing back then to go to single-digit numbers, and I wanted number 3, but that was the one Jay Edwards was just vacating at the time, and I knew I wasn't going to be Jay Edwards, so I went ahead and chose number 30 because it was open.
Wise move.
Yep. Thank you.
With all that happened over the weekend, of course, football, Tom Allen, he talked about the loss to Penn State. Let's hear what Coach Tom Allen had to say.
What was the intent with the big punt we had to take sequence?
Yeah, it wasn't supposed to. It wasn't. We just had a true freshman long snapper that made a mistake. So Sean's had a great season. Awesome kid. As you noticed, Peyton was surprised to get the ball. He wasn't supposed to. So it was just a mistake. What do you say? He was frustrated with himself when he came off. He realized it, and so it's just unfortunate. Pretty costly for sure, but he's done a great job. So he'll learn from it, and it won't happen again.
That was not supposed to be a fake.
No.
Okay.
Coach, you talked a little bit about the offense today. It seemed like every time they scored, you answered pretty well. You certainly moved the ball from down the field pretty well all day.
Yeah, offense did some good things for sure. Peyton just tremendously effective, tough, gritty. Seems like I say that all the time, don't I? That's what he is. So got some big runs, made some good throws. Against a very, very good defense. We played a good football team today, and we're a good football team too. So it was back and forth, and came down to the end, and our kids are tough. They compete, they fight, and we just got to keep getting better.
Coach, on that last sequence going in where he ended up kicking the field goal.
That's Tom Allen talking about it. Normally he gives a synopsis after the game. He went straight to questions after this game, unfortunately, but he mentions Peyton Ramsey. Man, what a situation that has been, luckily for Indiana, that he did not enter the transfer portal. That's been talked about a lot, but it can't be overlooked because, man, he's able to step in, and Indiana was just as good as Penn State was Saturday. They just made a few mistakes that cost him the game.
I think that coaching staff would have told you. I think everyone would have agreed that, Indiana, if you look at them, you just line the two teams up on paper across from each other. I think Indiana is as good as Penn State. I think you said that perfectly. I really think that they are. And a game like that is, especially on the road, a game like that's going to come down to you. I don't want to say have to play flawless, which means you have to convert every third down and 6 that you have, but you've got to not make any big mistakes. And if you make a huge mistake like the muffed punt situation, you've got to make up with it with some gigantic plays. And, you probably got to make 3 big plays to make up for one big mistake like that. And so, they made that mistake, and then they weren't able to come up with some gigantic plays to offset it. And that's a game I think all coaches will tell you that going into that. Indiana on the road in the situation they were in, they've got to play a pretty flawless game, and flawless from the standpoint of not making big errors that are going to lead to points right away. And that's what happened, unfortunately.
They outgained Penn State by nearly 100 yards on the road, 462 to 371. The defense did a good job for the most part, except for there was the one long drive that took up, I think, 9 minutes that they just simply couldn't get a stop. I mean, there were so many little things that you could take out. There was a drop touchdown pass by Donovan Hale that really hurt. You got the muff punt that started things off. There was the not call. This drove me nuts. When Wap Fillier fumbled the ball for his second turnover of the game, that was without doubt targeting not once but twice to me. The first guy that engaged him was a helmet-to-helmet contact, and then the second and final blow comes in, and that guy was a definite head-to-head contact. And they have review. They go back and look at the fumble, and they can't. I've seen them add targeting after a foul has been called, but I guess maybe since no foul was called, if they cannot add it, because there's no, and it's inexplicable to me that they didn't after that, because he was hit twice in head-to-head on that single play.
Yeah, I mean, I watched an enormous amount of college football this year, and as I do I love college football and basketball, as you know, but that call, they have done, I think, a really, really good job of cleaning things up. I think if you'd have said 5 years ago where they would be today on being able to clean some of these plays up, and I think they've done a tremendous job. The only real knock that you can make on it is there's a lot of inconsistency, and there's a lot of those. I mean, if you're going to call the hits to the head, let's call them all. And if you really want to get it out of the game, because right now I think kids can complain a little bit, because they can be like, well, wait a minute, 2 plays ago, I hit the guy the exact same way and nobody was called, and 2 plays later I'm getting thrown out of the game for it. And so there's some inconsistency when it comes to it. And yeah, you get a play like that where a guy gets hit in the head, it should be a no-brainer. It should be, there's no questions asked. As soon as it happens, there's a penalty, and the penalty might be ejection. And, that would truly clean it up. I think the way they're doing it right now, kids have a kind of a argument to complain a little bit about, well, wait a minute, you only call it when you choose to call it or when it's a big play or whatever. And so, that inconsistency, but I don't want to sound like I beat up on the refs enough. I think they've done a pretty good job for the most part. There's just that's something I think they need to clarify within themselves.
It's ironic because 2 weeks ago, 1 week from now, in the Michigan game 2 years ago when Indiana lost to them in overtime for the second consecutive time in Bloomington, I remember Tom Allen coming into the post-game press conference. There had been some calls that went against Indiana in that game, some pass interference calls. They were kind of bogus a little bit, saying that you have to earn those calls. We haven't earned those calls yet. Well, here 2 years later, they're still not getting those calls. And I know exactly what it means. When it's in Indiana playing a Penn State, playing Ohio State or Michigan, you generally calls seem to go the wrong way. And there is something to be said for that, of teams getting calls because of the name that's on their jersey.
Yeah, I mean, and, I'm gonna sound like a real jerk. I'm glad Tom Allen has
I'm used to that.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I get that every day. I'm used to it. But I mean, Tom Allen, I really am glad that he has that, that opinion about it, and that opinion about the way that it is, because it's factual and it's true. And fortunately for basketball fans, it's gone the other way for Indiana. And Indiana is the beneficiary of those calls in basketball the majority of the time. And so it works out in one sport, it works out to your benefit. And I think that's kind of his point. Indiana has to put themselves in a football program perspective in that situation where they're viewed as a Michigan and as an Ohio State and as a Penn State, and where those calls will go in a game with them, those calls will go 50-50. And each team will get just as many of those, bogus calls as they should get or not be made. And, Indiana's not quite there yet. Unfortunately, it sucks to say, but they're not quite at that point yet. But they certainly are building that foundation, and they're getting themselves to the point where they're probably going to be good enough to overcome not getting those calls anyway. And once you get to that point, that's when you'll start getting the calls. I mean, it works out that way for some goofy reason in society. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, and if you want to be truthful and honest, and I try to always do that, Indiana has got to – they've got to beat somebody that they're not supposed to beat. And right now the opportunity for them is Michigan. They've had a tremendous season, and I am not in any way diminishing that. But they've got to beat somebody that they're not supposed to beat. They should have beat Michigan State without doubt because they're better than Michigan State. They actually should have beat Penn State because they just made mistakes that didn't allow them. They should have won that game by 2 touchdowns, if you want to be honest. I went back and watched that entire game. Indiana should have won that game easily. And it was just simple breakdowns in performance that led to it. It wasn't their performance overall was pretty damn good. They outgained them like 100 yards on the road. Are you kidding me? That's tough to do against one of the best defenses in the country, no less. And Indiana can play. They showed they can play with anybody, but they've got to get to that point. It doesn't matter what sport it is. If it was basketball, you have to knock down the shots when you get the opportunity to do so. You've been there.
Yeah, and it's true. And, that's it's funny because that's one of the things, Coach Knight is not doing that well health-wise. But one of the things that was really fun to hear him say over the weekend, because that's how ingrained in his mind it was, and that's how important it was to him, was over the years was, it didn't matter who we played, that we beat their ass. And the football team has to get to that same point. The basketball team right now has to get back to that same point as well. I'm not beating the football program down. The basketball team is at a point they've got to get to that again as well. But that's when we were never a team that ever looked back at our schedule or in the summertime looked at our schedule and looked to see who we were playing, because we knew we were going to play Kentucky. We knew we were going to play, good teams in the preseason and all that. It was never a question of, okay, we got to look forward to that Kentucky game. We knew we were playing them all the time. We might look to see if we were going to Maui or if we were going somewhere fun. But other than that, we knew we were going to play good teams. And for the most part, we expected to beat them all the time. And, the football program it's kind of at that point. And you truly, I'd have to, because I haven't followed it as closely as I have until the past 3 years. But, you have to give Tom Allen a great amount of credit, if not all the credit, for kind of changing the mentality and the culture of these guys that do expect to win every game. And they do go out there and they are disappointed when they lose to a Penn State. And they will get to that point. You don't, if they go out and had won 10 games this season or 11 games this season, it wouldn't have helped next season. It would have helped next season. It wouldn't have made them all next season believe they're going to win 11 games again. You got to do that over a 10-year period of time. And so it's going to take some time, but man, are they on the right track for it? And, they're that close to being good enough to overcome making a mistake like they did at Penn State and still being able to win. And that's when you're in a good position. And that's when, but I think, you and I didn't really talk about this, but we've thought it back and forth a few times in different messages. But if Indiana plays Michigan State this weekend versus the time of year they played them, I do think they win that ball game. I don't think there's any question they win that ball game. If they played Ohio State this weekend versus when they played them, I think they would have had a super great chance of winning that game as well, even though they did have a chance of winning it. But I think Indiana's football team it's like Michigan State has been in basketball for the last 15 years. From the beginning of the season to where they are right now, there has been a measurable improvement. And you can see it on the field, and the average fan can see it. And so that's fun to watch. That's fun to be a part of. And I think they're at a point right now where, things are just going to get better and better for them.
I could not agree more. Before I forget, for those of you tuning in expecting to hear Don Fisher, Don is usually with us here on each and every Monday. And technical difficulties going to prevent that from happening this week, but he'll be back with us next week. But we've got Todd Leary permanently now anyway, so it doesn't really matter, right?
It does matter. I always love to hear the fish man, no matter what is going on. But, he's been sick and had voice issues and all that recently, so he could use a little break, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, we gave him one by accident. He was so like
I know, but nobody else knows that.
Well, that's what I try to always be honest. Man. Hey, we got a lot more coming up on the program. Joining us next will be Mike Schumann. We'll talk some IU basketball. We'll hear from from Archie Miller as well, maybe a few players too. But we've got Todd Leary. It's Jim Coyle. Welcome back to Indiana. Or stay tuned for Indiana Sports Beat. We'll be back with more with Coyle and Leary right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
All right, all you Hoosiers out there, make sure you listen to my main man when it's time to talk about Indiana sports. Jim Coyle. All right.
Today's guest is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, with hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Pizza, burgers, beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville.
Good win by our team. We started the game much better defensively than we have in our previous last couple outings in particular. And I thought we were very unselfish. When you combine the effort level that we had early and the unselfishness, I thought we got off to a good start. And we continued to do a really good job early in the game on the offensive glass. We were able to really neutralize some things. And I think we hit the bonus in about 5 minutes in the first half, which is probably a record for us. But we're constantly preaching the ability to get fouled and play downhill, get inside. And I thought our guys did a good job. And we played with a comfortable margin. And then I thought the first 6 to 8 minutes in the second half were pretty good. And then obviously we got sloppy and very lack of maturity and some details and concentration things played a part in the later part of the game. But we're 4-0. We'll take all four of them. And we have Princeton on Wednesday, an Ivy League contender, terrific big guy. And we got our work cut out for us coming back, so we got to keep growing up and find a way to get a little better here next time out. But on Wednesday night, I think we'll get tested a lot differently, especially inside. Although tonight, I thought Zay Williams was about as good as you could probably get 28 and 8 on us.
There's Archie Miller, Indiana's basketball coach, talking about their most recent win over the weekend over Troy on Saturday, and of course they take on Princeton on Wednesday. But joined now by Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier joins us in. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Mike, how are you today, man?
Doing great. How are you guys doing?
Cannot complain. That was Archie there talking about the win. A good win for Indiana, but not a good win. But watching that game, it was a point of emphasis. They really moved the tempo forward. They were so active defensively. This was a team that took a step, I think, in that most recent win.
Yeah, there's no doubt that was the most complete effort that I've seen through the first 4 games. You know, you mentioned tempo. That's something that's really stood out to me really all season. You know, since Archie Miller was hired, he came in with a reputation of being a transition offense kind of guy, and we haven't really seen it through the first 2 years. But this year, I think they're getting it done. You know, he's emphasized it. You know, guys like Durham are really pushing the pace, and they're getting a lot of actions through their transition. That's where a lot of the offensive rebounds that he just mentioned are coming from. A lot of the fouls that they're drawing are coming in transition. So far, so good. I think the big question for me right now, at least as it relates to the offensive end, is some of the positives that we're seeing right now going to translate as the level of competition starts to escalate here starting on Wednesday night.
And let's be honest, Todd, nobody cares about that win over Troy right now. What they're thinking about is Dawson Garcia, and many reports yesterday that Archie Miller I even saw a tweet that had a picture of a flight being tracked from Bloomington to Minnesota. Obviously, they got another visit in with him, and that's the big thing right now. His decision's coming in 2 days. Todd, when they have a recruit of this magnitude, and there's so much attention being paid to it, man, they have to land this, or it's going to be a punch in the gut. Well, I think I lost Todd.
No, you talking to me?
I'm talking to you, brother.
I'm giving you dead silence. If you think I'm going to say that a top recruit in the country is going to make or break our recruiting class, you're crazy. I love our recruiting class. I love the guys that we have. I would be awesome to have him. But you know my view on recruiting. And these guys, they've done all they can do. If this kid doesn't see that Indiana's the best place for him to go, adios amigos. I'm not a fanboy when it comes to that recruiting BS. You know that.
I know, Homer Simpson.
I thought you were asking Mike, because I mean, you know better than to ask me questions like that. If Dawson Garcia comes, I will be his biggest fan. If he doesn't, I'll hope he goes to Kentucky so I can root against him.
The importance placed on his recruitment, though, for Indiana, I know you don't think that, but I promise you, it is imperative that they land a big man.
Why imperative? When you say imperative, that's when you lose me. Like, how's it imperative?
Because when they
don't sign him, then they'd have no chance of winning? Is that what you're saying?
No, but I'm saying they're not going to have a very good front court at this moment because everyone else will most likely be gone except for Race Thompson or freshmen that you bring in next year that they're not even talking about right now. That's either they will have so little experience on that front court by that season that's why.
You know, I warned you ahead of time I was going to argue with you about some stuff, and this recruiting is going to be it.
I can't wait. But Mike, what do you think? I mean, Mike knows what I'm talking about, the importance of landing. It's not just landing Dawson Garcia per se, but landing someone of that magnitude at his position in this class. That's the importance to me.
So now you're going to ask me to jump in and go against everything.
Go against me. Yes, do it. Do it. I believe me, I'm on an island with that opinion. I know that.
Tell him the truth, or I'm not having you back on again. Which means tell him what I want you to say, or I'm not having you back on again.
We translated it.
The dynamics on your show are changing here quickly. Here's the bottom line. Dawson Garcia is a hell of a basketball player, and Indiana would be much better with him on the roster. I agree with a lot of what Todd's saying in the sense that, you know what, you can't pin all your hopes on one guy, and if he goes elsewhere, we're all going to forget about him. But by the same token, you know what, he's the top-rated recruit that Indiana's going after in 2020. And if they can land him, I think he's a difference maker going into next year. But I think, you know, sooner or later we're going to find out here. It sounds like at some point this week.
Yeah, the decision's coming Wednesday.
Jim, seriously, I'm not going to let it go. my recruiting class had 7 people, and you know you can name them all, okay? And it included Calbert Chaney, Lawrence Funderburk, Chris Lawson, Pat Graham, Greg Graham, Chris Reynolds, and me, okay? Of those, who got all the attention? Who's the only person anybody cared that they had signed?
Calbert Chaney?
Nope. Who was the biggest recruit on that team? Lawrence Funderburk. Without question,
from
no
a hype
doubt
standpoint
about it. Nationally, the only person in that entire thing I ranked was Lawrence Funderburk. And how'd that work out for Indiana?
Exactly.
I think they did okay with the other guys that ended up coming there. Calbert Chaney.
Yeah, he did all right. He had an okay career.
Okay. So if you just say, yes, Todd, you're right, I'll be quiet.
Nope, absolutely nope. Because what I'm talking about is they don't. This is not a 7-man class though, and they don't have anybody that's going to fill this down low.
It's a freaking 4-man class. It's pretty impressive. The 3 guys we've got coming in, I'm pretty excited about.
None of them are front court players yet. They don't have a front court player that they're going to need when this time rolls around. But
Trace Jackson Davis will be there for 4 years.
You're out of your mind. You are absolutely out of your mind on that. Mike Schumann, I guarantee you have to back me up. There is no way that Trace Jackson Davis is going to be here for 4 years.
He has to develop a perimeter game, or I don't think he's clearly not one and done until he does that.
No, I'm not saying he's one and done, but he's not going to be here 4 years.
He's 3 years guaranteed. He is 3 years at IU without question.
I think that they might get 3 years out of him because I think he likes playing college basketball. At least right now he certainly does, and he's doing very well at it. How about that dude, man? He's already got a couple double-doubles. He's only played 4 college games, and he already has 2 double-doubles.
And there were people Saturday night starting to talk about the all-time NBA rebounding record. I mean, he got 14 points in, 25 minutes? If he had stayed in that game, I believe the record was 19 in a game. He was sniffing around that if he got a full allocation of minutes. I mean, it's you know, you don't want to put too much into what a kid's doing early on against inferior competition, but he's exceeded my expectations. I'll at least say that.
Oh, without doubt. He's shown that he's going to be, and I think, Todd, you can agree to this. He's shown he's going to be a difference maker this season. His play is only going to get better, and he's already making an impact on this team. As a freshman, only 4 games in. So we see the talent that he has. I mean, that's not question, and no question about that. And it's going to get better, but he has a desire. Some things we didn't see from players in recent past. He has a desire to get better, to be a part of that team, and to make the team better, I think.
Yeah, his consistency has been what I've enjoyed so far. I mean, it's only been 4 games, but, you know, he hasn't I don't think there's been games where I thought he looked overwhelmed or looked out of place or looked too slow or anything. I think he's just continually gotten a little bit more comfortable on the court throughout each game. But, you know, he's one of those guys that you hate to – he's not doing anything that – you know, he's making 7 3-pointers in a game when we have to say, well, you know, there's games you're not going to shoot well. Like the things he's doing, you can repeat that pretty often. I mean, when you're as good as he is, you can repeat that. And he's not doing things, you know, he'll need to extend his range later on. We'll let them develop that 4 years from now in the NBA when he gets there. But for right now, he's doing the things that are repeatable and can be consistent and happen every game. And you can count on. And when you've got, especially a freshman guy that's that big and talented that can do that, yeah, you're going to build your team around him. And I think eventually this team will revolve around him, but it's not going to revolve around him getting 25 a game. It's going to revolve around him being consistent like he's doing right now, 14 to 17 points a game. And if he gets double-digit rebounds, they're going to have a chance to win.
Mike, this is Todd's first day, of course, with us. The show's now Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, so I'm having to hold his hand and walk him through this. Talk about we got to see Devontae Green first action of the year, Mike. His impact wasn't that much because he got some rust. He's got to knock the rust off. He didn't shoot the ball particularly well, but that was part of this tempo, man. Watching this team, how quick they were, you can see that when he's in the game.
Yeah, the funny thing is they get him back and lose Fennessy. They still haven't had 4 scholarship guards playing yet this year. I guess that might come on Wednesday because they said Fennessy just had strep throat after the game, so nothing serious going on there. So that'll be interesting to see. Even further to your point is, what kind of tempo can they get going with both Fennessy and Green? Presumably that's the starting backcourt. Maybe as soon as Wednesday, but down the road for sure. Those two guys haven't even played yet together. So once those two guys are together, throw in Durham, I think the tempo that this team can get going is fundamentally important when you talk about all the free throws that they're getting. All that stuff's coming off of tempo right now for the most part. They're a lot of Jackson Davis's putbacks are off of, outrunning his man down the court. So I'm excited when it comes to, the way this team's getting downhill, because I still don't know that they're a great half-court offensive team. Even that's a little bit better thus far, again, against inferior opposition. They're moving the ball better, a lot less standing around. But I think, and Archie's alluded to this, that they got to run to be successful with the makeup of their roster.
Absolutely. Mike Schumann joining us from the Daily Hoosier. We appreciate you as always. Thanks a lot for joining us here on the first day of Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. We appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys, and glad to hear the significant upgrade to the show, Jim.
Attaboy. Keep it up, Mike.
Jake, take him off the list, please.
He just got 2 segments.
Hey, I appreciate you, Mike. Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Thanks, Mike.
Guys.
We appreciate you, brother.
See you, buddy.
We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary coming to you. Stay tuned right here after this.
I am the bluest of blues. Every day a different way to lose. The go-getter.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is A.J. Moyer.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day, or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. 944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Hey, this is Jordan Halls, former Indiana Hoosier. Keep up with Indiana sports on Indiana Sports Beat.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Coyle and Leary here on this Monday. Thanks a lot for joining us. I'm Jim Coyle, joined, of course, by Todd Leary.
What up?
A great weekend for Indiana sports, other than the loss to Penn State. A good game, good effort. But, man, the basketball team with a solid victory over Troy, which, of course, they should get that. But it was the way they played that it got to leave a lot of people happy. Like I said earlier, they were extremely active on defense, and the tempo was, man, they looked fast. They just looked sitting down. I had the good fortune to sit next to John Leskowski during the first half of that game. And just watching them, they just looked so much faster, pushing the ball up the floor. You had Devontae Green. That was the first minutes from him. So that's got to be a boost of confidence for your team. When you get a guy back that you haven't had, who's supposedly going to be, one of the playmakers, that's got to be a boost of confidence in and of itself, Todd.
Yeah, it is. It truly changes the whole dynamic of everything, of how the team plays. They were playing fairly quick leading into that game. The games he hadn't played and Devontae hadn't played in yet, but getting him back, he's a guy that, he's like the microwave. I forget what that guy's name was in the NBA a long time ago.
Vinny.
Yeah. I mean, he's like that. He can come in and score buckets in a hurry, and he's fast with the ball, and he can get it down there. And, he's a guy who played, two guard, I'm sure, shooting guard, whatever you want to call it, throughout his entire high school career. And now he's being asked to do some things that are a little bit different for his first few years at Indiana. But right now, he's probably being asked to go back and be what he's more like in high school. And that's really his comfort zone. I mean, believe me, I lived that life. I never brought the ball up the floor one time in high school. And then all of a sudden I was, I never didn't not bring the ball up the floor at IU. And so it's a totally different role for me. And at some point in time, I got good enough to where they got to play me at two guard again. That would have been my comfort zone. That would have been my role. And that's what Devontae's getting to do. I mean, he's back to that point. They need him to score. They need him to knock down shots, and they need him to drive the ball in and kick it off the guys for easy layups because people have to defend him. And, that's more of his comfort zone. I think this is going to be his best year. I think we're going to get a lot of great production out of him, and people will be saying, oh, he should have been doing that the whole time. Well, the team's makeup was just different. He's a 4-year player now. He's been there a long time. He's seasoned, and I think he will be an enormous help to this team, even though I have been insanely impressed with Finney and Armand Franklin and Al Durham in this preseason or pre-conference season matchups. And I think just adding Devontae to this is going to make all of them better. And, yes, it's going to make them all faster. And I think that we all agree that this team is going to be better when it moves up and down the court faster.
Absolutely, especially if they turnovers. They've been able to keep the turnovers to a minimum as well. I've been impressed with that because last year that was something that they fought throughout the season. It would go up and down. But they've seemed to have gotten a grasp on how to push the ball without turning the ball over. They're doing a good job with that. And we have yet to see this team with a lineup that we're probably going to see throughout the season. Wednesday may be our first opportunity. Rob Finney was sick in the last game, not injured, so we're hoping that he's going to be back for that Princeton game. So we might see him with Devontae Green on the floor at the same time, probably Al Durham. But it's going to be interesting to see what that lineup is Wednesday night.
Yeah, I think we'll start to see the minutes, kind of get to the point of where they're going to be, closer to the Big Ten season. They've got a couple Big Ten games coming up in a couple of weeks. So I think we'll start to see the minutes kind of, I don't want to say level out, because right now I think they're pretty level. You got a lot of guys playing between 15 and 25 minutes. But I think we'll start to see some more guys play closer to 30 minutes and some guys play less, down to 10 or 12 minutes. And you'll start to see the lineups on the floor that, in all reality, Devontae's got to work himself into those lineups because they have played pretty well together in the first few ball games. Now, I think it'll be pretty easy for him to do that. But it'll be interesting to see what shakes out from a minute standpoint on who out of those four guards, who ends up being the guys who play, closer to 30 minutes.
I know you haven't followed it closely as yet, as closely as you will start to be following it. But Indiana's women's basketball team, they're already off to a great start to their season. But, man, they have the potential to have a very, very special season. But, good gosh, do they have a tough schedule coming up in the next 6 games. I think they probably play 5 ranked teams in the next 6 games, including number 2 Baylor in there.
Oh my, yeah. That's I did not know that schedule, but yeah, I'm actually really excited to get to that point. I haven't. You're right. I haven't followed women's basketball team in Indiana in a long, long time, and so this job opportunity gives me a chance to do that, and I'm really looking forward to it. I have enjoyed. We met with. I know you've already known her, but I met Tyra Buss this weekend, and couldn't have said more good things about her. She was just a fantastic person and fun to talk to. And you talk about promoting a program. I mean, that girl believes in the Indiana women's basketball team. I mean, she doesn't care anything about Bob Knight. She wants to see the Indiana women's program get to that point, and that's fun to see. And it got me excited to go out and see some games. So I'm excited to go with you and see some women's games too. Yeah,
their team right now is one that reminds me of. I don't want to compare them to your all's teams in the early 90s, but they are a well-rounded team. Every position is a solid player, and they've had different leading scorers in different games. Allie Patberg is someone you would think is their number one go-to because she had been. But now with Grace Berger in her sophomore season, her stock has risen dramatically. You got the freshman, man, I'm drawing a blank on her name, but she's been the leading scorer in 1 or 2 games. They've just got so much depth. They haven't had Bendu Yaley back yet, I don't think. So, but their depth is amazing that they have, and you don't know who's going to be the leading scorer on a given night, and that has got to be a great luxury for Coach Terry Morin.
Hang on a minute. Are you saying that they're being successful without having top 25 or 50 recruits?
We're talking women's basketball, son.
Are you sure that's possible?
We're talking women's basketball. Huge difference.
Are you sure that's possible to be able to do that? I mean,
women's basketball.
I just want to make sure you know what you're saying.
Women's basketball. Big difference between women's and men's.
How is it a big difference? They're all rated the same.
Because the same women's basketball can be dominated.
Rate them too.
Women's basketball can be dominated, but Indiana has a complete team. Allie Patberg was.
I'll quit busting your chops. Yeah, you're exactly right. And I've looked at their stats. I haven't been to a game yet, but I have looked at their stats. So I'm excited to see how they do play well together because you're right. They've got a very spread out stat sheet where different people are doing things in different games. And if you don't know the players like I did not walking into prior to this week, which I'll know them after this week, prior to that, I could not have told you who would have been the superstar on that team because the stat sheets just have a different player all the time on there.
Yeah, Indiana's currently in the top 10 right now. They're ranked number 21, and I think they may be. I forget.
You just said in the top 10, and you said number 21.
I'm sorry, what I'm saying. They're number 21 in the top 25. But here's their schedule coming up. They've got Florida coming up on Friday. Right, which is not ranked, which is a Power 5 team, though. Then you've got number 6 South Carolina. Then you've got number 2 Baylor. Then you got Washington State. Then you have number 17 Miami of Florida. All coming up in the next few games. That's a pretty difficult schedule.
Yeah, that's a toughie.
But
they'll find out if they're worthy of that number 21 ranking real quick.
Absolutely. If they can get some of these key wins, man, their RPI is going to be set in stone as they enter Big Ten conference play.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. And if they can play well and win a couple of those games, their confidence level will be through the roof.
Man, when you were in school, you were fortunate too. The Indiana soccer, which has always been great, but they've never stopped being good. It seems like they just won another back-to-back Big Ten tournament championship. I think it's the 14th Big Ten tournament title that they've won. It's incredible what they've done. But the thing about this year is they did it with a multitude of freshmen. They were starting 7 freshmen, so 3/4 of their starting lineup were freshmen. That's nuts at this level to do what Todd Yeagley and that squad have done.
Yeah, I mean, that is, that's kind of the fun part. That's where the basketball program, is because of what was built a long, long time ago. And, Todd Yeagley is he's a tremendous, outstanding coach. That's obvious. But, I mean, his dad was able to build, they put a culture in there that they believed in, and it was a winning culture, and it proved it could withstand time, and man, it's just fun to brag about. I said it last week on the show. I mean, as an Indiana fan, it's fun to brag about how great the soccer program is, and when you look at what they do, and you look at the swimming programs and all that, I mean, you're like, my gosh, there are so many other great programs other than just basketball. Football's getting ready to be there too, but when you can do, I think I read something about the men's soccer team that they have won both the regular season and the Big Ten tournament, like 10 times already. I mean, that's insane. Like, that's not easy to do. That's insane.
The Final Four for soccer is called the College Cup, and there have been, I think, roughly 40 something of them. Indiana has made nearly half of the Final Fours in men's college soccer.
Yeah, that's a dynasty.
We're talking UCLA 70s basketball stuff. It's nuts. Sure. It's crazy, but and the Yeagleys have been right in the middle of that, but they continue that today. And of course, looking strong for the future when you got a team full of freshmen and you're winning. That is difficult to do in any sport, much less one like soccer that is predicated on so much teamwork. You talk about teamwork, man, having to pass the ball with your feet only. That's pretty difficult.
Yeah, well, obviously I would suck at it because I never played soccer, and some of the stuff those guys do is just freaking amazing. So it's fun to watch, and that program has been soccer. If you had to name the one sport that's grown the most since you and I were kids, I think we would all have to definitely say soccer, and that's why I think that's one of the reasons why it's been so much fun to watch Indiana's program be so good and so successful in a sport that, from a fan base perspective, or a kid's participation perspective, has grown more than any other sport in the world in the last 25 or 30 years. So yeah, that's just what makes it exciting to me.
Yeah, Joker reminds us of backing up your point that the men's top-rated recruiting class of 2019 lost to Evansville. Pretty sure they don't have any top recruits on that program.
Yeah, they don't. They don't even have any kids from Indiana on that program. Isn't that amazing?
Is that true?
I can't say that it's 100% true. I know no one that played was from Indiana.
That's amazing. Well, they'll need to change that. But, man, how have you enjoyed your first day?
Man, I love it. I like to hear myself talk. So, of course, I mean, I've dominated the whole conversation. And, occasionally I let you say something, and it's worked out pretty good.
That's perfect. I like it that way.
I'm totally teasing. I appreciate everything. And I like this. I like this back and forth. I enjoy the opportunity to learn more about, the women's program and the soccer program and all those different things that when you have other jobs, you don't get a chance to focus on that stuff. But now I get to do it full time 100%. So I'll have no excuses, and I'm looking forward to it a bunch.
Man, we are so excited. Jake's excited. I'm excited. It's just been Jake just gave me the 2 thumbs up. Oh, that's it.
Jake better be excited. I'll knock him out.
That's right. Well, man, it's been a fun time. We had Mike Schumann on with us. Next week on Monday, Don Fisher will be back with us. We had a technical issue that prevented that today, but unfortunately. But we had the great Todd Leary with us as he has now joined the family. Welcome to the family, by the way.
Man, thank you. I'm more excited than you, I promise you.
Well, everybody, we appreciate you joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, especially today's first broadcast with that name. That's awesome. We've got a lot more to talk about the rest of the week. Keep your questions coming in. Make sure you can hit us up on the text line, 812-269-6367. Or 6367, or how you've always done it. But keep the comments and questions coming. We look forward to it. Todd's going to be with us every day from now on, man. We're so excited, and we're just happy to be here, man. Todd, thanks a lot, brother. We appreciate you.
Love it. I can't wait to talk to you tomorrow.
Sounds great. We appreciate everybody joining us on the program here, and we'll be back tomorrow with plenty more. Chronic Hoosier and Nick Baumgart will be with us. Until then, I will see you on the radio.